Aloha, everybody, and welcome back to Street Fighter Cross Mega Man. In the last part, we took out Dhalsim, and we got his Yoga Inferno, which is going to be a very useful weapon against our next enemy, the green Brazilian beastman that we know as Blanka. His skin is green, he's electric, he shoots electricity for some reason, and he has red hair all over his body. How did he end up like that? I'm just going to assume he ate a whole bunch of Tide Pods. And that's why, kids, you don't eat Tide Pods, okay? Don't eat those things. This is my topical meme reference for this particular video. But with this level, I'm going to be using a lot of Optic Laser, which is, again, Crimson Viper's weapon. Because this game doesn't have a shop feature, the only way to restore weapon energy is to find weapon energy capsules that enemies will drop. There are no weapon tanks in Street Fighter Cross Mega Man, but the good news is, if you die, all of your weapon energy does get restored. It's not like some of the classic Mega Man games, like, say, Mega Man 2, where, let's say you get to Wily 4, you're taking on the turret boss, and every single one of your crash bombs needs to count, right? And if you miss a shot, and then you can't kill the boss, and then you die, you'll respawn, and then you'll have to farm with a lot of the Sniper Joes on the side to get that crash weapon energy back. But with Street Fighter Cross Mega Man, if you die, all of your weapon energy is restored. So if you're in a tough boss fight with, say, M. Bison, and you want to use his weakness to speed up the boss fight, but then he just killed you, and there's no way to get weapon energy back, don't worry. Whenever you respawn, your weapon energy returns. So, that's nice and generous of Sonic, let me tell you. Nice and generous. The one thing Mega Man is missing from his arsenal in this particular entry is his faithful dog companion, Rush. Rush does show up. We will be seeing him in the next level, actually. But we don't have access to Rush Coil. We don't have access to Rush Jet. And we're going to have something similar to Rush Jet after we defeat Blanka, actually. Because Blanka's weapon is very similar to the Mega Ball from Mega Man 8. And that's going to be kind of our Rush Coil equivalent. But for the most part, you don't start off with Rush. And because this game doesn't have a shop feature to buy anything, we're not going to unlock Rush either. It's not like you beat 4 levels and then, okay, now you got Rush Jet. No, with this particular game, you start off very bare bones. You just have your charge shot, you just have your slides, and you have to find energy tanks as you come across them, and take on the Street Fighters as effectively as you can. But here we are, folks. Time to take on Blanka. So you'll notice right next to the boss's health bar is another meter which fills up with red energy lines. And when it's filled up all the way, that means the character can perform an ultra move. And that's what we just saw right there. When the camera zooms in on Blanka, that means he's doing his ultra move. And his ultra move involves shooting electricity along the ground, so you'll need to jump in order to dodge it. He also drops 4 watermelons down on the ground, and you can take contact damage by getting hit by those. Now, I should point out something very interesting about this boss fight. So you'll notice I got hit by Blanka, but I still got a perfect, right? I used an energy tank to refill my health. And like I said, as long as you have full health by the time a boss fight ends, the game considers that a perfect. That's why it's very good to have energy tanks if you're trying to get the secret extra final boss, because if you want to get some perfects, but you keep taking damage and you're not very skilled at this game, then energy tanks can actually help you get full health. But keep in mind, you still have to deliver that final blow once you have full health. You might waste an energy tank if you get full health, you have only 1 shot to go, and then Blanka, like, hits you out of nowhere, and then it's like, well, that was a waste of an energy tank. I can't get that back anymore. I can't replay levels. God damn it. But, yeah, I now have 3 perfects. 1 with Chun-Li, 1 with Dhalsim, 1 with Blanka. I only need 1 more, and I can unlock the secret extra final boss. But, you can use energy tanks to do that. So here's Rush. We don't have Rush Coil, but we do have Rush Jet for Rose's stage. This is very similar to how it was in Mega Man 8. This is an auto-scroller section. You can go up, down, left, right. And we just have to shoot a whole bunch of stuff as we're going to our destination. We're not going to be picking up Beats or Otto or Eddie capsules along this pathway. This isn't exactly like Mega Man 8, unfortunately, but still, it's kind of a flight game where you have the Mega Buster and you can still use any of your special weapons. We defeated Blanka, and we got this watermelon ability, which is going to be Rose's weakness. But, like I said before, the watermelon is kind of like the Mega Ball from Mega Man 8. When you shoot it, it immediately lands right in front of Mega Man, landing on the ground. And if you run into it, you'll actually kick it along the pathway. You'll actually move it where you're going. So you'll be kicking the watermelon as you go, and if you push the attack button again, you'll kick it along the ground and it will slide wherever it goes. But if you hold up and push the kick button, you'll kick it high into the sky, it'll go at an angle, and it can hit things that are higher than the ground, let's say. But the other thing you can do with the watermelon is you can actually jump on it in order to go super high, as if it was Rush Coil, or, like I said before, the Mega Ball from Mega Man 8. It's pretty much just the Mega Ball from Mega Man 8, only in watermelon form. So, you know, if you're looking for a Rush Coil Mega Ball equivalent, you might want to go after Blanka first, because that's pretty damn useful to have, let me tell ya. I really like this music, I really like these levels and stuff. Again, I think the enemy design and how their patterns and how their attack strategies is really creative for this one guy, this Sonic, to design a game around, you know? I think these enemies are actually really well designed. This feels like a Mega Man game to me, it truly does. I mean, I do think that the later levels are a little lacking compared to regular Mega Man titles. You'll see when we start getting into the Shadaloo stuff that this game might have been a little bit rushed to get out in time, I'm not sure, but when it comes to the regular levels, I think this totally feels like a Mega Man game. For sure, this totally feels like a Mega Man game. Although it did have problems on launch. This game came out in December 17th, 2012, and there were actually two versions of Street Fighter Cross Mega Man. When it initially debuted, there was version 1, which had an orange title screen, and that version had a whole bunch of bugs and glitches. It also had some, like, boss issues where they actually buffed some of the bosses for version 2. I'll talk about that stuff later. For now, we got Rose. Rose made her debut in Street Fighter Alpha. She likes to teleport all over the place. Again, she's weak to Blanka's watermelon weapon. Whenever she disappears, she's always going to appear where you are, and she's going to be sliding across whatever direction you are. So you might have to run a little bit forward, jump as soon as she appears, because it's very easy to take damage from her. Now, her ultra move is to create Soul Satellite, which creates these two protective barriers around her that can damage you. And when she teleports around the place, they stay in one spot and then eventually go to where Rose teleports, which can make them blindside Mega Man and give you a little bit of a surprise attack, let's say. The watermelon can immediately dispel those barriers instantly. But if you don't have the watermelon, you gotta watch out for that stuff. Soul Satellite can be quite problematic for our blue bomber. But the good news is, when we defeat Rose, we get Soul Satellite. We get a barrier that protects us from damage, and it also allows us to shoot as we're doing it. The Soul Satellite actually lingers for a little bit, so you can actually switch to a different weapon and you'll still have the shield. Like, I could be Mega Buster, Optic Laser, Yoga Inferno, and the barrier will still be on Mega Man, which is an interesting shield idea. I really like that. Sometimes with other shield-type powers, you have to stay in that form in order for the shield to stay there. But with Soul Satellite, you can switch to other powers, and the shield will still be on your person. And I like that. I like that. It's interesting design, if you ask me. But anyway, here I am. I'm going to show off the watermelon, because, like I said, you jump on it, boom, you go super high. This is how it's basically Mega Ball or Rush Coil. You can kick it along the ground, you can kick it into the sky. You also push it along if you walk into it. So, yeah. We're going after Rolento first. Rolento originally was a Final Fight character, but Street Fighter and Final Fight are very connected. They often have Final Fight characters appear in these games, like Cody, Guy, Poison, Hugo, and this level is basically... It's like a Final Fight level. It's using the music track from Final Fight, And Rolento was one of the bosses you took on in Final Fight, but then he eventually joined in the Street Fighter Alpha games, and I like that connectivity. Capcom universes are quite fascinating. Apparently Strider's in the Street Fighter universe as well, because one of the characters in Street Fighter ends up becoming Strider, or he ends up designing the Strider program. I don't know. Like, is Mega Man also in continuity with Street Fighter? Is all of Capcom in continuity with itself? Like, does the Umbrella Corporation exist in the same timeline where Dr. Light would eventually build robots in 20XX? I don't know. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite kind of gave the idea that it was all one shared universe, which I don't even know how the hell that works. But that's how it works in the Capcom land, I guess. But, I love that song. Final Fight's good. I like Final Fight. I like Streets of Rage more, but I still like Final Fight. Anyway, folks, now we're taking on Rolento, who is weak to Soul Satellites. Now, he's actually weaker to the barriers than he is the regular shots. He doesn't take that much damage from the shots, but if you hit him with the barriers, he'll take a lot of damage. One thing I like about the sound design here, he has this pogo ability, right? He uses his baton to bounce, just like he does in the fighting games and in Final Fight. But the sound effect that happens when he bounces is straight up Scrooge McDuck's bouncing sound from the NES version of DuckTales, which was a Capcom game. So when you hear Rolento bouncing around, it's boing, boing. Ah, I love that. I've done a Let's Play on DuckTales on this channel if you're interested in watching it, but good stuff. Anyway, he drops a lot of grenades all over the place. He hops twice if he's going to pogo, so you know to slide under it once if he, if he pogos at least once. By defeating him, we get Minesweeper, which allows us to shoot a grenade. It always goes at an angle. It can destroy barriers of certain enemies, which is always helpful. And, yeah. Now we're going to be taking on my Street Fighter 3 main character, because M. Bison's not in Street Fighter 3, and I needed someone to practice, and Urien, he has those fireball shots, or those weird purple energy shots. He has the charge attacks that I like about Bison, kind of. Like the dive kicks and the charge forward stuff. So, Urien was always my guy at Street Fighter 3. He's like this evil businessman type guy whose skin color can change, and he's part of the Illuminati. Street Fighter's weird, but, so I'm playing version 2 of the game. Version 2 came out, I think, maybe 2 months after the original version. The original version of Street Fighter Cross Mega Man certainly had problems. It had glitches where, like, energy tanks would just spawn in out of nowhere. Like, energy tanks are specifically designed for certain levels, but then you'd be going through a Rolento stage and an energy tank would just be on the platform for no reason, even though it wasn't there in a previous playthrough. Or you'd be in Ryu stage and it would just literally spawn in the wall, which is like, what the hell? Version 1 had a really underwhelming final boss fight with M. Bison, because M. Bison was kind of easy to take out in comparison to a lot of the bosses, especially Vega. Everyone had issues with Vega, but nobody had issues with M. Bison, and version 2 certainly buffed Bison and made him a lot stronger. All these shield enemies, their shots can hit back at you. The grenade weapon works great on them, but be careful. But the most important thing version 1 didn't have that version 2 added was a password feature, because version 1 didn't have a save system, it didn't have a password system, you had to beat the whole game in one sitting, otherwise you couldn't beat the game. And version 2 added passwords. It doesn't have a save feature, it just has passwords, and that means if you want to take on the secret final boss, you still have to beat the game in one sitting, because passwords do not count whether you've gotten perfects or not, which kinda sucks. But, at least there are passwords where, okay, maybe I'm a little busy, maybe I really don't have an hour to kill, maybe I only have 20 minutes or a half hour to kill. Okay, I'll play a few Street Fighter Cross Mega Man levels, then I'll move on, So that is a password feature, and that's in version 2. Again, I'm just talking about version 1 because it's kind of interesting to know. I still have version 1 on my computer. But the version you'll find on Capcom Unity's website is version 2, so you really shouldn't have to worry about that. It's just worth noting that if you played it when it initially launched, The version I'm playing is different from that initial launch version. This is actually an updated, better version of Street Fighter Cross Mega Man. But anyway, here's Urien. He's weak to Minesweeper. He likes to jump up and immediately dive down, so you'll have to watch out for that. When he shoots fireballs, sometimes he'll shoot straight ahead, sometimes he'll shoot right in the sky. He has anti-air, you know? So you might jump over, and instead of jumping over, you'll jump into it, and that could be tricky. Because Minesweeper always goes at an angle, sometimes you want to shoot it when you're, like, in the middle of the room. You always want to try and hit Urien as he's diving, so that you're throwing the grenades into him. And when he creates his shield, his Aegis Reflector, as part of his Ultra move, Minesweeper can destroy the Aegis Reflector. And that is very useful to do, because if you don't have his weakness, every shot you take at Urien can potentially be reflected back at you because of his Aegis Reflector. But now that we've beaten Urien, we can do it. So anything that's shot at us, we can reflect backwards. Ha! Your fireball is useless, Dan Hibiki. But anyway, folks, yeah. Come back for the final part of the playthrough. Yeah, we're at the end of it now. I'm going to take on the last Street Fighter Ryu, and then we're going to take on the Shadaloo Kings. Until then.